So 2024, of course, saw a string of high-profile album releases that permeated throughout pop culture. Charli XCX's public profile reached new heights with Brat, Beyonce finally got her Album of the Year Grammy for Cowboy Carter, and of course, Kendrick Lamar capitalized on maybe the biggest year of his career so far with GNX. Indie artists like Clairo and Magdalena Bay and more had massive years too, landing on a string of best of the year lists from fans and critics alike. But there is one album that seems to have slipped between the cracks, neither a huge commercial success nor a critical darling, which is surprising when you consider the kinds of people this artist has worked with in the past. Beyonce, Tyler the Creator, Alicia Keys, A$AP Rocky, Flying Lotus are just some of the high-profile artists that have given this person a cosign. And that person is Tierra Whack. Tierra Whack is by no means a new artist, although the album she dropped in 2024 was technically her debut. She's been making music in some capacity for about 15 years now, with an off-kilter, unique approach to hip-hop strongly inspired by Busta Rhymes and Outkast. In 2018, she released Whack World, her debut mixtape, with a super unusual approach. It consisted of 15 songs, each lasting 1 minute, as each track served as a kind of mini vignette. The mixtape received a ton of praise, ending up on Pitchfork, NPR, Billboard, and more end-of-year lists. It was from here where her profile began to grow, going on tour with Black shortly after, being featured on the XXL 2019 freshman class, and some major festival appearances. At the time, she said that she wasn't consciously thinking of making a new album, she was just having fun creating and performing. The next big batch of music we got from her was in December of 2021, where she released 3 EPs, Rap, Pop, and R&B. As the titles may suggest, each was a take on a distinct genre of music, all filtered through the lens of Tierra Whack's very unique vision. With the benefit of hindsight, these EPs serve as a pretty useful preview for what would become her debut album in 2024, Worldwide Whack. The album is a fusion of left-field hip-hop, R&B, indie pop, and more. Expanding on the scope of her previous music, the thesis of this new project seems to be finding humor in some of the darkest of places. It's an album rooted in emotional vulnerability and honesty, delivered in a candid and extremely blunt way that makes it feel like a Yorgos Lanthimos film. When the cover art for Worldwide Whack was released, this is what the press release had to say about it. The first reveal of the Worldwide Whack character, an alter ego both untouchable and vulnerable, superhuman and painfully human, whose surprising story will unfold in images and video over the course of the album's visual rollout. Untouchable and vulnerable are the two seemingly contradictory ideas that Worldwide Whack lives in, kind of like finding that strength and power through raw vulnerability. The press release also cited Piero, the Italian clown stock character, as an inspiration for this new character. Considering Piero fundamentally represents the idea of putting on that mask or makeup in order to hide your true feelings, that most certainly tracks with a lot of the album's content. Worldwide Whack opens with Mood Swing, introducing us to the somber but zany musical palette of the album, driven by these childlike pianos. As the title would suggest, she flip-flops between the highs and lows of her psyche. She says that she stands tall like Shaquille, and a few lines later she says that she keeps her guard up so you never get to know me. Immediately, that press release stating the album is about vulnerability and being untouchable is realized. The whole song is her grappling with that idea of vulnerability, and leads her to the conclusion that being closed off and lonely is the safest bet. The next track, Misbehave, is far more aggressive. The beat sounds like something out of the Black Panther soundtrack, as Tierra describes herself as an outcast and flexes some of her achievements. Misbehave is a testament to her dedication to remain true to her own artistry, refusing to compromise or behave, so to speak. The second verse is where Tierra doubles down on her own confidence and achievements, and those themes are further explored in Chanel Pit. Chanel Pit oozes a similar confidence to Misbehave, although in a much lighter and more playful context. We return to the childlike wonder of the opening track with what sounds like a toy glockenspiel. And because of that childlike wonder, we get some of the most straightforward, candid bars of the album.
What is that shit I smell? Me. I am that shit you smell, yes.
This album is her telling us in explicit certain terms exactly what she is feeling. Her flow on the hook and verses are so incredibly locked in and catchy, with some absurdly hilarious lyrics peppered in like, arm and a leg for this bag, and I got a bag in the bag, and another bag inside my bag. Ask what's in my bag, it's just a bag. Numb is up next, another super short track where we get the first glimpses of some of the truly dark aspects of her mental health. The instrumental is very watery as she describes how numb she has felt since she was a child. She questions how she even made it this far, making various references to drowning, alcoholism, and self-harm. She says that she can't swim, so she's going down. To me, an explicit reference to the dark void that is depression. Tierra confirms this explicitly with the bar, "Yeah, I know I'm blessed, but I'm depressed." As is the thesis for a lot of the album, the sentiment isn't shrouded in mystery or elaborate metaphor. She is telling us clear as day. Burning Brains expands on some of the particulars of her mental health, where she describes a frustration with her own brain, seemingly expressing some sort of overstimulation or sensory overload. "Driving me insane, all you do is complain, headache, my brain, mass explosions." That frustration with the self, with how your brain processes information, is something I relate to particularly after being recently diagnosed with ADHD, and I'm sure a lot of neurodivergent people can also relate. The chorus is so simple.
Soup too hot, ice too cold, grass too green, sky too blue.
What I love about this is that the overstimulation isn't a reaction to things that are necessarily negative or positive. These are examples of both, but sometimes your brain doesn't want to distinguish the two. That frustration is the lack of logic. Complaining about things being both too hot and too cold seems to not make sense, and it leaves you with the feeling that your attempts at improving how you feel are futile. She also describes her brain never being satisfied, linking back to those themes of anxiety and depression from the preceding song. The next track, Accessible, seems to be an exploration on how these emotions affect personal relationships. It seems to express a frustration with a romantic interest and how frankly bland they are. They're too accessible, Tierra says, and she's being honest in saying this isn't what she wants. She states facts like,
But you let that shit go on and you play me still. A real nigga should know how to make a lady feel.
But interestingly, the closing section of the song implies that she's willing to settle by stating, "Lower my standards for you." This once again directly feeds into the next song, which is Imaginary Friends. It seems she's in some sort of casual relationship with this person, but as the title would hint at, this might be just a figment of her imagination, perhaps to deal with the previously mentioned loneliness. "They say you're a conspiracy, maybe they're right," is a signifier that this might be in her head. In the verses, she describes having only one friend because the rest are phonies and hurt her feelings. Then we get into some super dark territory with the line,
When I grow up, I want to hang from a ceiling. The roof is leaking, teardrops.
She describes this friend as understanding and someone who will never abandon her. Of course, the only person guaranteed to not abandon you is yourself. Tierra goes on to explicitly say that she doesn't care whether this person is real or not. It's a coping mechanism, it works, and in the immediate, that's all that really matters. X switches back to a more aggressive edge where Tierra attempts to sever off this relationship.
When I'm around you, I'm not satisfied. You got the job, but you're not qualified.
Seems to express a severe dissatisfaction with how this relationship is turning out. Disappointed by your attitude, incompatible and dramatic too. Talk a good game, but you never a stunter, is the same message as Accessible, only far more aggressive and confrontational. She makes a callback to the end of Accessible with the line, "I settled, that's what I get for being nice," in reference to her claiming that she lowered her standards. Now she's no longer willing to accept these subpar standards. That leads directly into the vision of romance that she wants, and my favourite song on the album, Movies. Off the bat, Movies is one of the sweetest and most fun songs I've heard in years. It's also a prime example of how effective a simple but focused concept can be. It's that difference between something that's simple and something that's basic. The entire song is Tierra envisioning the perfect date.
You never take me to the movies, take me to eat on a foodie boy.
The reason I love this so much is because of the simplicity. When you're truly in love with someone, the simplest everyday things become incredibly romantic by virtue of the fact that you're doing it with that person. I go to the movies or to the cinema with my fiance very regularly, and it never gets boring because it's with her. Even though this song is very sweet, there is something somber about it, like she's mourning the vision of love and romance that she's currently not enjoying. Larry and David, these characters in the song, used to take her to the movies to see The Matrix and horror films, so why can't this new person do that?
I need love, it ain't hard as you think. I want the popcorn with the big old drink. I need love, let's catch the premiere. Tickets on sale and there's love in the air.
Might be one of my favourite lyrics on the album, because it's just facts, it's true. Love shouldn't be hard with the right person. Of course, you have challenges, you have arguments, you have shit that you have to work through, but fundamentally it shouldn't feel like constant hard work. The fact that this person thinks it should be hard is an indicator that it might not be a relationship that will last. Tierra wants the emotional, sweet, intimate love that comes from those simple things, for example, going to the movies. And I don't know if this is a reach or not, but to me, it seems like a rebuttal to the types of dudes who, sit around making podcasts about, quote, women these days. The kind of guys that claim you need this salary and this car and this body and this hair to attract a woman, when it's just not true. What matters is just spending valuable time together, having a laugh, and making memories. None of that other bullshit matters. I just love how candid and sincere about love this song is, and real about everyday mundane love. We're pulled back down to earth with Difficult, where Tierra uses the track to describe what sounds like a pretty bad, depressive episode. The wonder of the last track is replaced with stark reality. She says she can't eat or sleep, she feels small, she acts strong, but she is weak. And the troublesome thing is that these feelings have no discernible reason other than the fact that living itself is difficult. She doesn't see a point in living, really, describing being born merely to survive, before repeating the phrase, so cold, so cold, so cold. She seems to confirm that the friend she had was in fact made up, as she says she's been looking for somebody she could vent to. Ironically, she says that she forgot to call you back, but she meant to, implying that she does actually have people attempting to reach out. Again, I'll bring it back to the point of neurodiversity, because I can safely say I've forgotten on many occasions to phone or text back family and friends. The second verse is where we get the glimmer of hope. Tierra says she's been making the best of every situation handed to her. Regardless of the time wasted and the hurt inflicted, she's embracing being here and being in the now, being present. It's no coincidence that the next song is the one filled with the most unbridled joy and humor, Shower Song. Similarly to movies, Shower Song is overtly fun and joyous. Instrumentally, it's funky and zany and wacky and out there, the things you would associate with Tierra Whack. She's completely worry-free, singing Aretha Franklin and Britney Spears in the shower while she exfoliates. Notably, she says, "And I heard my phone ring, but I'll call them back later." The phone ringing in this context is the real world, the world of responsibility and anxiety and more. But in the shower, for that brief moment, none of it matters. It doesn't exist in the moment of mundane freedom of singing in the shower. There's honestly not much else to the track. It's just incredibly fun. Invitation is her chance to express her creativity and the source of it as she opens up about her unique approach to art and her unwillingness to compromise. She confidently flexes her talent and shouts out her mother before we switch it up again with maybe the hardest beat on the album. The first time I heard Snake Eyes, I was convinced it was the same beat as Hooligan by Baby. It bears a striking resemblance. Snake Eyes has a lot more material flexing than any of the other tracks in this laid-back, almost cold-blooded, detached kind of flow. Tierra uses Snake Eyes to remind us just how much hard work has gone into her career. The entire song, she is just super locked in with that monotone flow as the dark pianos drive the track. The final two tracks are perhaps the saddest moments of the album, starting with Tonight. Now, I am going to put a trigger warning in here. You can skip to the timestamp listed if you don't want to hear about themes of self-harm and suicide. Tierra opens up the track with a super stark contrast. "I might die tonight, but before I go, want to let you know I didn't pay the light bill this month." She's seemingly considering taking her own life, but her main concern is still the rat race we live in. The everyday mundane stress that takes up far too much of our time is inescapable. This is where the dark humor comes in as she raps, "My last meal might be chicken and fries. I'm black, so you shouldn't be surprised. My jokes don't make you laugh, so you cry." She also raps,
"Boys are never good. When will you return? Deadbeat daddy, throw him in the urn."
which is a crazy bar. Deadbeat daddy, throw him in an urn is so cold-blooded. In the pre-chorus, we get a pretty disturbing lyric seemingly confirming that her depression has now won. Trying to fight the feeling like Apollo Creed, got a call from God, I was so relieved. She's thought those intrusive thoughts and lost. The result is that God called her and she's now relieved that she no longer has to live. As she previously said in no uncertain terms, living is difficult. She ends the verse by saying, death is real, life is fake, my advice to you, make some more mistakes. Which to me seems like a small glimmer of hope once again. The realization that we're on this planet for a very brief moment and how that mindset can free you from worrying about the things that fundamentally don't matter. It's that encouragement to make mistakes, to pursue your dreams, which is buried in that line for me. 27 Club ends the album and in no uncertain terms is about the S word. In an AMA on Reddit when the album dropped, a fan commented the following post to Tierra. Hi Tierra, when I first listened to 27 Club, I kinda cracked up because of how in your face it was about the word suicide. Was this intended? It made me laugh because all the other songs about suicide just imply it or express it in a very roundabout way. It felt like a Norm Macdonald joke to me. Also, are you okay? I can't not ask after listening to this album. Tierra Whack responded with the following. Hey, it wasn't supposed to be a joke. I wanted to end my life for a long time. I'm okay for now. The song is explicitly about life, death, legacy, and suicidal ideation. The title itself refers to a string of high-profile artists who passed away at the age of 27, including Jimi Hendrix, Amy Winehouse, Kurt Cobain, Jim Morrison, and more. The music video for 27 Club also feeds into the Piero the Clown inspiration, with an overtly colourful and party-like video to mask the deeply dark lyrics. Tierra says that she can show us how it feels to lose someone we love. This is that world where that life is taken. She turns the glass half full idiom on its head, personifying herself as the glass and stating that she's empty. Once again, another allusion or reference to depression. She also says, when your life gets hard, but it's simple, referring to the only permanent solution to life no longer being hard. No longer being alive is the, quote, simple answer in this context, but of course not the right answer. She ends the album by saying that she has a gun to her head and don't tempt her. And that AMA Reddit comment where she says she's okay for now feeds into that idea. At this point of the album, she's on the edge in that moment. Okay for now, but impossible to predict how she'll be in months or years from now. Worldwide Whack ends in a very, very bleak place, and the more you digest the album, the darker it gets. But it makes those moments of joy and optimism even more powerful. They're possible even in the darkest of times, and I think that's what Tierra Whack is communicating. The album is bittersweet, in some moments flat out depressing, but how candid she is makes it so engrossing and captivating. And I can't understand why more people aren't talking about this album, especially considering all the hype around her name leading up to it. I think this is such a great album, particularly speaking to those who may be struggling to communicate, maybe neurodivergent, or maybe someone's just struggling with mental health in general. It communicates to them that they aren't alone, which is a strong theme of that album, Tierra Whack feeling like she's alone. If you haven't, I strongly urge you to take a listen to this album because you will not be disappointed. It is one of the best albums of 2024.